Hi there, welcome to the NBA DFS build. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We are going to be going over the DraftKings slate for Friday, that is today. And we'll be walking through the games, pointing out our favorite plays, looking at options we might want to fade, and just hopefully helping you in your process. If this video helps you at all, please give it a like and also subscribe to the channel. Taylor, right away, we can jump right in here. We got probably the best game of the slate starting off here with the Spurs heading to Charlotte. And I'll show that ticker here. And the Hornets are favorites. And that's not always something we can say. But and also the Spurs not being major underdogs, right? So who do you like here? Let me get this up. We can look at
so Will's out first thing.
Yep.
Obviously, that opens up tons of usage for the rest of these guys. And kind of more playmaking for Sohan, and that's kind of why he's popping as a good value at 5.2. Zach Collins is also back, expected to be back. He's been out a while, so he could be limited, but he's only 5.7. 26-minute projection is enough for him to stand out, especially against Charlotte. So he looks like a good value. Keldon and Vassell should get most of the usage. That's really it. Like, I get why Trey Jones is kind of popping. Good pace matchup, starting role, but if he's chalky, I'm not dying to get to him, and everyone else looks like a fade. But yeah, you can make a case for 4 or 5 Spurs. Obviously, I probably wouldn't play Vassell and Keldon Johnson together, but otherwise, see a very good spot.
Yeah, no disagreement here. I think you can load up on Spurs in this game in general pretty easily and feel good about it, which is weird because normally you should never feel good about playing the Spurs or Hornets. But, here we are. My favorite play is probably going to be Sohan. Just the price and the minutes and the role and projection all look pretty good to me. I think everybody else is just fine, and you can definitely play a bunch of them. You can flirt with the Dominic Barlow, and Mamu, but pick your poison. I mean, neither of them are going to be reliable. They're going to be splitting the minutes. But yeah, everybody is on the table here, even Vassell and Johnson being more the pricier options here. But even at their price points, they are probably too cheap. And I mean, I feel like the projections feel light here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if both these guys smash, and just obviously anybody who starts is in play for here. But I would be a little bit worried about Collins possibly being limited here.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes off the bench, depending on who starts, like if Barlow starts, I might have more interest in him. I don't want to play Mamu either way. Barlow's good per minute. Even if Collins is limited, I don't really see a path to where he plays less than 20, Mm-hmm. So for the dollar, he's fine. But if he is popular as a set-only, then understand it.
Okay. On the Hornets side, obviously LaMelo Ball starts things off here. He looks great. Who else for Charlotte do you like today?
Well, Miles Bridges looks really cheap for 71. He's been around 8K for a while. Minutes are still heavy. San Antonio without Wemby is atrocious, so he should be able to do whatever he wants. Power forward center is kind of interesting with him. He's usually small forward, power forward, but don't mind that at all. Rozier's getting cheaper. Certainly wouldn't play LaMelo and Rozier together. I guess Richards is questionable. If he's out, then maybe Mensa is puntable if he starts for 3K flat, but I assume they would just kind of roll with Bridges and PJ playing most of the center minutes in that scenario. So they don't really have to play with a ton of size if they don't want to. Yeah, I mean, LaMelo looks really good. He's going to be really popular on 9K. Minutes are still a little down since he just came back. I think he's been hovering around 30, 31. But there is a path to more if the game's close. Charlotte doesn't win often, so maybe if they're in position to win, he gets a few more if the game's close down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, PJ for 5-1 is a really good value, especially if Richards is out. There's a lot to like. The rotation is still a little unsettled with questionable tags, but you can easily stack the full game. The only issue is stacking that whole game will be pretty popular, I would think.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the only reason why you wouldn't want to do it is because like every guy you look at here that feels playable is like 20 to 30% owned for the projected anyway. So I'm in agreement with you here. I mean, I like Nick Richards if he plays. Love BJ Washington if Richards is out. The only guy I really don't want to play is Rozier, just because there's a lot of good guards on this slate, and if he's going to be 31% owned or more, I mean, fuck that. I'm going to go do something else. Love LaMelo. I don't really care too much about the minutes at this point, just because they are slowly ticking up. I mean, if he 30 to 33 minutes, I'm good. 47-point projection. And maybe the minute thing keeps his ownership in check to some degree. So that'd be great too. And I agree, Miles Bridges, while a garbage human, really good price and a good projection. Next up, we got Philly going to Orlando, and the Sixers are 5-point favorites. Obviously, Orlando's defensive ability kind of makes this matchup suck. Not the best total in the world, 223, pretty disgusting, especially when you look at a lot of the other game environments on this slate. Joel Embiid obviously is always going to look like a good play, so I don't think we need to waste much time on him. Although I would like to hear whether or not you are considering him at 3% ownership on a slate this size, and then also who else you like for Philly.
Yeah, I don't mind that, just because 11.5 is reasonable. It's been quite good lately, all season, really. Matchup's fine, but not the greatest matchup, not the worst either. Happy to get to him if he really is going to be 3%. Otherwise, the whole team looks pretty fadeable since they're pretty much healthy.
Yeah, nobody stands out for me at all. And honestly, it's not. I don't think it's a very good matchup, but also Embiid is Embiid. He'll probably get his, but it's just a pure ownership play. It's like if you like the rest of your team and you can get to Joel without feeling too bad about it, then if nobody's gonna be on him, sure, he could go drop 80 and that could be a slate breaker. But for me as a whole, I'm probably just gonna fade the Sixers. On the Orlando side, Paolo obviously stands out as the top play. Probably nobody else, but just interested to hear if there's anybody on your radar here.
Carter's playing a little more these days, but still playing behind Goga. Otherwise, no one projects for even 30 minutes. So, yeah, this game as a whole looks like one to kind of scratch off the list, except for a couple guys.
Yep, I agree. I got nothing to add there. Do not like playing the Magic, so I'm off of that. Nuggets head to Boston, take on the Celtics. The Celtics are 7-point favorites. We have a 234 total. This could be a pretty good game environment. Starting with the Denver side, and obviously up top with Jokic. Who do you like?
We pause for a sec.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we're talking about the Nuggets. Yeah, who do you like for Denver?
I don't know if I trust the current number, but if Jokic is twice as popular as Embiid, I don't really see any reason to play Jokic. Boston's an awful matchup. Jokic has been down in general since Murray came back. I don't think Murray is a bad try, kind of as a one-off, but everyone else here just looks mediocre. I have no interest in a 16% owned Reggie Jackson bench. And this is another game that does not look very appealing. They're 7-point underdog, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah. Do you think maybe that tells us that somebody key could end up sitting? Or is just Boston that revered at this point?
I don't know. I think they're undefeated at home, but
that's not nothing.
Yeah, but 7 is a lot.
Yeah, I gotta think that Reggie Jackson ownership dissipates at some point because that seems weird. I guess there's just no real bottom value yet on this slate. There's good value for sure with the Spurs and Hornets and the Hawks, but nothing at like 3.9. So even so, I don't know why you're excited about why anybody would be excited about a possibly chalky Reggie Jackson on the road against Celtics. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't see anything I like here. Good point about the ownership being doubled compared to Embiid. Because if you're trying to get different, why would you not pay $200 more for Embiid, right? So
he's been way better anyway.
Yeah, it makes total sense. if you're going to play anybody on this in this game or for Denver, it would be Jokic, but I'm probably fading. On the Boston side, obviously they're 7-point favorites. They're at home. They crush at home. And they appear to be at full strength. I saw Porzingis is in, and I have not seen anybody else be questionable. So, especially for a big game against Denver, I would imagine everybody would play. So, who do you like here, if anybody?
Yeah, not really anyone. Derek White's gotten a lot cheaper, but he's also been kind of mediocre lately. Tatum's not a bad try for 9-7, but again, plenty of ways to spend money on the slate. Don't see any need to kind of go against Denver, even with a 120 total.
No, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like it is a pretty good game environment, and it should be a good game. But for DFS, it's just there's nobody that necessarily stands out. Both these teams are at full strength. You have the top studs in Jokic and Tatum, and they're fine, but they just don't look like priority plays at this slate.
Agreed.
Speaking of priority plays, the Atlanta Hawks and their fast-paced ways go to South Beach to take on the Heat. Miami, let me trash that. Miami is a pretty sizable 7.5-point favorite, and the total is only 222.5. That's thanks to Miami's defense, surely. And there's no Trae Young. So obviously there's blowout risk here, and there's the risk of the Hawks, what they want to do offensively could get curbed by what Miami does defensively. But there's good value here, and there are some core plays shaping up. So who do you like?
I don't see any reason not to try Bogdanovic for only 5.6. Even if he's off the bench, he's going to play a huge role, have a huge usage with no Trae Young.
Unique New York.
DeJounte, if he's going to be really popular, I don't see the need. Like, he is going to play a bigger role, but matchup stinks. He might draw Jimmy. That could be a spot to go somewhere else if he's going to wind up being really popular for 7.5. Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey both look good. Bey's a good price. Johnson, a little overpriced maybe, but he's been excellent and should play a huge role. And the centers, when they're both in there, it's hard to get too excited about either of them, but they're both reasonably priced, even in a rough spot. I don't mind Capella, 4 or 5.8.
Yeah, good points. For me, it's probably just the two main guys, DeJounte and Boggy. I mean, Boggy is the better point per dollar play. He's the better value, and he projects really well and should play plenty of minutes. And like you said, Jimmy would probably be on Murray. But I mean, right now, I'm probably just going to use them both just because their roles are going to be massive and they're both really cheap. Murray has not been great on the year. But historically, when Trae is out, he does tend to smash. So his projection looks really good, and 7.5 is, I mean, even if he's chalky, 7.5 is not much to get, 40 plus fantasy points here. How about the other side? Miami, Bam Bam is projecting very nicely, and his price has come down. So I'm sure that's who you'll start off with. But who do you like for the Heat?
Yeah, he's certainly the main piece for 87. That's too cheap for him. Great matchup against Atlanta. I feel like they just played each other. I don't know if that's true, but it seems familiar. Jimmy and Hero both under 8 is appealing. Jimmy more so. He hasn't been great this year either. He's been kind of hit or miss, but should be healthy. Atlanta's a good get-right spot. I would play no more than one of them together probably. So Bam, I think, would probably naturally filter into most lineups just because he's the one that projects the best. But Jimmy and Hero are decent as well. And then Lowry is only 4K, which is pretty low these days for DK standards. No floor whatsoever. But, if Reggie Jackson is just as popular as Lowry, I feel more confident in Lowry at that price.
Yeah, Lowry's fine. I probably won't use him, but he's 4K and he's a starter and a good matchup. So, I mean, what other excuse do you need if the value's dog shit, right? I'm with you on Bam Bam. However, 23% projected ownership is probably going to be even higher than that. That's a pretty good reason for me to fade because there's a lot of good options right around that price range. And obviously, if you're paying up at center, you could just be like, okay, screw the chalk, and I'll go get Joel Embiid. So there's that logic. Jimmy looks like a really good leverage play. He's maybe going to end up being half the ownership of Bam Bam. Doesn't have nearly the projection, but he's pushing 40 fantasy points. He's only 7.6K, and Atlanta's obviously a dream spot. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's a bit of a get-right spot for Butler. If everybody's going to be flocking toward Bam, I might get different at center and leverage with Jimmy Butler a little bit there. And, like you noted, he has not been very good on the year. So, I mean, I'm not like concretely looking at Jimmy for sure, but he's definitely very, very interesting to me. Next up, we have the Suns. They are 1.5-point underdogs in New Orleans against the Pelicans. Everybody's healthy. So who do you like here?
Pretty much nobody. New Orleans has been really good defensively. Suns, when they're all healthy, kind of cannibalize each other. KD and Booker are reasonable in the low 9s, but not really standing out. I think if KD's, more popular than Booker, I don't mind getting to Booker just because he's going to be quite unowned and plays nearly 40 minutes a night. But overall, not looking like a great spot.
Yeah, I can't really add much to that other than if you get to them, there's nothing wrong with that, and they look like good GPP plays. Their prices are good, their projections are good. They just aren't major standout plays that everybody's flocking to. But in the tournament, that's great for us if that's what we want to do. And the guy I'd probably go with is Devin. He's just cheaper and projecting for less ownership than KD. So not priorities, but they're still, they got to be on your radar to some degree. On the other side of the Pels, nobody really projects that well, but they're all kind of cheap. Just like the Suns, they are at full strength. Who do you like?
I think Zion looks really good. Interior defense isn't a strength for Phoenix. That's pretty much where Zion lives, so happy to get to him here for 7.5. He's the cheapest of the big three, which is the opposite of how it usually is. So I do think that's a decent spot even at ownership. No one else really projects that well. I'm not really into CJ. Ingram is okay, but not the best spot for him. I think there are alternatives in that range at the same positions. It's pretty much just Zion or bust, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. And, good note on the Suns not being a stalwart down low. Very true. I'm probably just going to fade the Pel side. Probably just going to fade this game as a whole. Zion just has not exhibited any kind of a ceiling this year. Like, that has not been the case in the past couple of years. And obviously it's probably a lot to do with their health. Last couple of years, it's guys have been in and out of the lineup, whether it be Zion himself or Ingram or CJ or whoever. So they're all there, so they kind of eat into each other, So I agree Zion is the Pelican you want here, but I don't really feel like he stands out. Some guys that will stand out are in the Pacers and Blazers game, which is a pretty healthy 238 total in Portland with the Blazers 5.5 home dogs, which is a little bit interesting. Pascal Siakam is going to be making his debut in this game, but we don't know if Halliburton is in yet, I don't think. I mean, he was originally estimated to be out for 2 weeks, so it doesn't really seem like he should be back just yet. And they also have like 3 other guys questionable for this game. A lot to keep an eye on there because there could be potential value. I know last night TJ McConnell ended up starting and was a great play, but going into the game, not everybody was so sure that was going to be the case. So could be another situation like that, maybe to save, value spots with stacking some later games or something. But I digress. Who in Indy is on your radar?
Yeah, I don't think Halliburton will play. Nembhard was a late scratch. Even with that, McConnell was like 40% owned, so people were able to swap and got to that news, unfortunately. Ben Mathurin looks pretty good, assuming Halliburton sits again. Not the greatest price tag on him, but big role lately. If these guys are out again, maybe Jarvis Walker is okay off the bench, but Siakam being there certainly takes a bite out of him. Jalen Smith probably comes off the bench behind Siakam. I think Miles Turner is interesting just because the Blazers, without is Aiden back? I don't even know. But regardless, they've been kind of eaten up inside.
Did the ice melt?
Who knows? I think that's
ridiculous.
a decent value.
By the way, how could he not just like walk out of where he lived and somebody pick him up and bring him to the stadium? Does he have to drive his car? I don't.
DeAndre Ayton, it's not like he wants to play. He just wants to get paid.
Remember the one game in the COVID era where he was like making his way to the stadium or something, and he never
missed
got
his
there?
test and he couldn't play or something.
It was something so stupid that really screwed a lot of people. I remember that vividly. But yeah, I agree with you here. The Pacers just kind of eat into each other. The minutes are so spread out. But Mathurin looks good if Halliburton is out, and especially if Nembhard is out, and then McConnell is playable again. But Siakam is actually pretty interesting here if Halliburton doesn't play. I wouldn't imagine he'd be super limited, even though
I just don't think he'll get the minutes that he was getting in Toronto because
but why
really do that.
But why not? There's no real reason to not play this stud that you just brought in, especially when your main stud is out.
He's not going to push for 40 minutes anymore. I don't think he's a bad option. I just don't. There's uncertainty, so you can play into it if you want, but
that's fair. Good GPP play for sure, though, especially in this matchup. All right, on the Portland side, Anthony Simons is coming in as one of the chalkiest plays of the slate with good reason. I would imagine you have some interest in him, but who else for the Blazers do you like?
Yeah, Brogdon looks quite popular as well. Mm-hmm. He's cheap. What's with the minutes, though? Like, he was basically out of the rotation like a week ago. Then he randomly came back to play 30 in the last game. I don't know if that's trustworthy.
They're just outside of Ayton, who figures to be back. They're at full strength, so it's just like I don't know what they're doing, but
it seems like a fragile projection on him.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot that stands out aside from Simons. I get why Brogdon and Grant are popular. I guess Grant's not really popular, but he looks like a good value for under 7K, but doesn't do much other than score. It's kind of just Simons, and maybe if Ayton gets stuck in the snow, you can play doo-wop again, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like reliability goes, I agree, but this is probably my second favorite game to stack. And honestly, since there's so much ownership going to the Spurs Hornets game, you could make a pretty good argument to just fully stack this game or have like a lot of your pieces coming from this game. Obviously, Simons and Brogdon are chalky, but nobody else in this game is going to be chalky. I don't like the fragility of Brogdon's role in minutes right now, so I think that's a good spot to fade. Simons looks like okay chalk. The projection's really good, and he has crazy usage. But you could honestly make a case for playing basically anybody else who starts for Portland and Indiana. So I still think it's just natural to look at the Spurs Hornets game, but this one we should be paying a little bit closer attention to, I think. Last game of the night has the Nets visiting the Lakers. The Lakers are 7-point favorites as expected. Brooklyn is super hard to trust all the time, but some of their guys project decently. And the Lakers are weird and always let bad teams play them close. So who do you like on the Nets, if anybody?
Claxton always seems to project well, even at 7K, but should be somewhat popular. I don't know. I don't really feel like all these centers can be popular at the same time. So
I also don't see why he's popular. Don't you think he could get in like easy, quick foul trouble with Brow just working around in there?
Maybe. I generally don't play for that. I just play regardless.
Okay, but when he's 21% owned, I mean that's a good thing to consider as part of like why I might not play this guy. But
it's also like playing for blowouts. Like you never know what's going to happen. So in the long run, I think it's just kind of generally better to play instead of kind of playing mind games with that kind of stuff. But I get it.
I'm baiting Clax. Okay, so who else besides Claxton?
No one. Dinwiddie's not a bad value, but the minutes are down. Deep rotation, bad team. Yeah, Mikal Bridges looks fine, but not really dying to pay 7-7 for him. So
Nope, nobody really stands up for the Nets. I agree with that. On the Lakers side, Brow looks like one of the best plays of the entire slate. And obviously LeBron is totally fine. How are you feeling about the Lake Show?
yeah, and Russell with the bigger starting role lately looks really good again. I don't know why they never raise the prices on these guys. They've been like 10K all year long. It's weird. AD should probably be like upwards of 12K by now. He's just not. LeBron 9.5 seems wildly low for him. Certainly not playing them together, but D'Lo I'm happy to get to. And then I don't think Reeves is the worst kind of dart throw for 61, but that kind of wraps it up. The other Lakers are not reliable at all.
Yeah, I think Reeves is kind of a good leverage pivot off of D'Lo, but at the same time, D'Lo remains a very good play. He looks to be chalky, so I mean, you could start to talk yourself into going, sideways there with Reeves or somebody else. I like that Brow doesn't look very chalky right now because he's a great smash play in the hammer game here. And then, I mean, you're not really getting very different by going LeBron over Davis, and Davis is still so cheap. It's ridiculous. So I would definitely lean Brow for sure over LeBron. Like the other night, I played LeBron over Brow when he was playing the Mavs, and the ownership was completely different. Brow was like majorly chalky, and LeBron was like 8% owned. So had that gone my way, that might have been a smart move. In this case, I would just go Davis, and you can use D'Lo and Reeves if you choose. One value I will point out, Taurean Prince, he starts and plays about 30 minutes. Yeah, he isn't the best, and his projection isn't good, but if we're looking at freaking Reggie Jackson on this slate, why can't you look at Taurean Prince, So I wouldn't completely ignore him, and hopefully we get better value than that. But that does it for the game-by-game breakdown. We're going to just really quick touch on our top picks here, and then also our fades, and then we'll leave everybody to it and hopefully building immaculate lineups. So for your top picks, you have, Bogdanovich, Anthony Davis, and Bam. You rolling with them? Is that your core?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think I'm really going out on a huge limb here, but Bogdanovich looks like the easiest play on the whole slate. I don't see why you wouldn't play him. AD and Bam, both centers. I can see why you might want to play just one of them, for example, if they're both popular. But AD in particular is the one I would prefer to build around. I think Bam has more alternatives in his price range. AD's significantly cheaper than Embiid and Jokic, which he shouldn't be. So I just don't see any reason to not keep going back to the well.
Yeah, those are all good plays. The only reason why I probably won't be playing Bam is the ownership, I think. And also I like Davis more here. So if Davis is going to be only 10 to 12% owned and Bam's going to be 23 plus, I think for me that's an easy call. But Bam is a great price, great spot, awesome projection, so I can see why he's one of your favorite plays. Kind of sticking with the Bogdanovich thing, DeJounte Murray. I would also include Boggy in my core, but I didn't want to have duplicate picks here, giving people more options. But DeJounte Murray, obviously, I'm sure you agree, is a good play. LaMelo Ball, I think, is really hard to not use if you're stacking up Spurs. I mean, it's just the easiest comeback play of all time. And then Jeremy Sohan, just one of probably my favorite Spur to play based off of price and role going into tonight. As for the fade side of things, I don't think you need to go super up top. I think Brow is like as far as I need to go as far as spending. I don't even think you need to go Brow, especially if you go Bam and he pays off. So I'm going to personally be fading Jokic and Embiid. I do see the appeal in a 3% Embiid, but I won't be doing it. And then Terry Rozier is too chalky with LaMelo back, in my opinion. So I won't be playing Terry.
Fair enough. I just think Embiid's a great option. If he's going to be like 3% owned, like I don't see any reason not to lean into that a little. Doesn't take much to get over the field. Not sure if he actually will be. If more value comes out, he will certainly become more popular, but I don't know. I think it's really interesting if he's going to be 5% or so.
Yeah, I can't argue there. All right, so that does it for us. We ran a bit long, but this is a little bit of a bigger slate. So usually we're going to try to keep it at 20 minutes or so. Either way, hopefully what we went over helped you a little bit in your process. And if it did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And hopefully we'll be back at it again early next week. Either way, good luck.